About a month ago, the Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak resigned. A military council was named to govern in his place, and the people of Egypt celebrated Mubarak's fall and the triumph of democracy. Now the big question is, how will Egypt continue on from here? At this point, we simply don't know what will happen next. We do know what has happened. Mubarak is out of office, the military council remains intact and has in fact increased dramatically in power. But there is a big difference between the reality and interpretation by the world media. In a genuine revolution, the police and military forces cannot contain the crowds. In Egypt, the military chose not to confront the demonstrators, because it agreed with the demonstrators' main demand, getting rid of Mubarak. Contrary to what many people believe, the military and Mubarak are not on the same team. You see, the military and Mubarak were at a confrontation months before any of this happened. It started when Mubarak expressed his intention to make his son the next president of Egypt. Basically, Mubarak was trying to transform the military regime into a monarchy, and this represented a direct challenge to the regime that was founded in a coup led by Colonel Gamal Abdel Nasser. Nasser modeled his Egyptian government after that of Kemal Mustafa Atatürk from Turkey. The regime was based on the military. It was intended to be secular, but with democratic elements. However, it had to be guaranteed and ultimately controlled by the military. Nasser believed that the military was the most modern and progressive element in Egyptian society, and that it had to be given the responsibility and power to modernize Egypt. Now, Mubarak's desire to have his son succeed him enraged the Egyptian military. And a few months ago, the Egyptian military started maneuvering to block Mubarak's ambitions. The military wanted to see Mubarak step down and make way for an orderly succession. But Mubarak's unwillingness to do this created a crisis for the regime. And this is a key point to understand, because this is the critical distinction between the military regime and Hosni Mubarak. In short, Mubarak was the leader of the regime, successor to Nasser and Sadat, who over time came to distinguish his own personal interests from those of the regime. He was increasingly seen as a threat to the regime, and the regime turned on him. And one important event that we saw happen is that the demonstrators never called for the downfall of the regime. They demanded that Mubarak step down. And this is the same demand that was made by the military months before the crowds gathered in the streets. So the military saw an opportunity and welcomed the demonstrators, because the crowds created a crisis that put Mubarak's future on the table. The crowds gave the military an opportunity to save their own regime and preserve their own interests. So in essence, what happened was not a real revolution. It was a military coup that used the protests as a justification to force Mubarak out of office in order to preserve the military regime. But now the real question is, will this military coup turn into a revolution? Because the demonstrators demanded genuine democratic elections, and the military council did agree to this. And at this point, nobody in the world can say what will happen. This was a Caspian Report by me, Shivan, and thank you for watching. Sağ ol.